Good afternoon. Welcome to the Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank. I'm Jared Floyd. It is lunchtime on Tuesday, November 4th, and thank you so much for taking time out of the day to take a look at the forecast. And this forecast made possible by the United Way of Northeast Louisiana and the 211 initiative. From food and water to medical assistance, 211 connects you to the most up-to-date resources in your area. It is a beautiful start to this Tuesday. I don't expect a lot of significant change. However, we do have eyeballs on a cold front this weekend, or a series of fronts really this weekend, that will bring a cool down next week, and it could include the first freeze of the year for some locations. That's kind of the big weather headline now, simply because there's not a whole lot happening in the short term. Visible satellite across the area shows nothing, nor were we really expecting to see much today. Your radar products are always made possible by Brown's Roofing. You can schedule your free roof inspection at brownsroofingla.com. Again, no rainfall across the region, and while the clouds are likely to increase, the rain chances probably not so much over the next week to 10 days. Temperatures this afternoon at lunchtime: 70 in Monroe, 68 in El Dorado, 70 in Camden, 69 in Natchez, 66 in Gina, and 70 in Vicksburg. We'll look at some of the average first and last freeze information in just a little bit. I posted that earlier today, and you can look at that at your leisure if you would so choose. But we'll kind of get into that stuff, especially since, again, that is kind of the weather headline over the next week. Dew points are relatively dry, still in the low to mid 40s for the most part, even some upper 30s sprinkled in here or there. There are some low 50s as well. As the winds start to swing back around to the south, I would expect the moisture to continue to increase across the area as we head into Wednesday afternoon. Dew points probably shifting from the 40s to the 50s, maybe even some low 60s. So we start to get some low-level moisture to kind of move back in across the region. Same story for Thursday afternoon as we see those dew points start to climb closer to 60 degrees, and that could even lead to an increase in cloud cover during the morning hours over the next few days. But when you compare these dew points, generally upper 50s to low 60s, to daytime highs climbing into the upper 70s to low 80s, there's still not a lot of encouraging signals in terms of rainfall. And as we go through the weekend, again, dew points climb a little bit during the morning hours, and then the drier air mixes in during the afternoon. And those types of numbers really are not encouraging in terms of significant rainfall. As I mentioned, winds are back out of the south. They're fairly light this afternoon in the 3 to 5 mile an hour range, and we set the stage for those southerly winds to kind of carry the warm-up over the next few days. Futurecast, made possible by Bayou Power Sports I-20 Frontage Road in Monroe, again shows winds back out of the south as we head through the overnight. And for areas along and south of I-20, that could lead to some low clouds kind of rolling in during the morning hours. And also for especially the river valleys, some areas could encounter some patchy fog. That's going to be more likely for areas like St. Joseph and Natchez and folks right along the Mississippi River Valley, but there will be some other opportunities for some low clouds and maybe some patchy fog tomorrow morning. That could also be an issue, again, going into Thursday morning. Again, the drier air mixes down to the surface pretty efficiently during the afternoon hours, so what cloud cover we do have to start the day thins out pretty quickly as we go through the afternoon. Still expecting quite a bit of sunshine, but again, clouds could contend across the area for Thursday morning. Again, still some sunshine filtering in through the afternoon. As we go into Friday morning, again, clouds to start the day, but still sunshine trying to kind of win over as we head through the daytime hours. And we'll wiggle a weak cold front in late Friday. Doesn't really make that much of a difference. And then a stronger boundary really reinforces the pattern as we go into the early parts of next week. Again, the rain chances not overly encouraging considering the pattern. Checking the water vapor imagery, and it also kind of tells the story. Big ridge of high pressure, kind of a flattened ridge of high pressure, but it's the controlling feature in the forecast, basically centered right along the Louisiana-Texas coastline, plotted right over Sabine Pass, essentially, as you look at that water vapor imagery. And again, it's kind of flattened on the northern edge, but there's a lot of staunch mid-level dry air in place, and you're going to have to overcome a lot of that dry air before you can get a pattern change that would filter any rainfall in. That's not going to happen anytime soon. But what it will do is it will bring some colder air back in. So a look at Futurecast, and I've overlaid surface temperatures with mid-level winds. Just follow me on this for a second. And as we go through the next few days, we continue to see that ridge of high pressure get pushed off to the south. Upper level pattern starts to get a smidge more active. So this would be cold front number 1 trying to move through the region. It is across a very weakened pattern aloft. That was a horribly drawn cold front. But you get the general idea is this trough of low pressure across the mid-Mississippi Valley and upper Mississippi Valley tries to move a cold front through the region. Here's the problem. That trough is well to the north, and most of this activity kind of just bypasses this. The colder air bypasses is just not enough there. However, there's another disturbance that follows in behind it, and this stronger disturbance, you can kind of follow the cold front here. There we go. Now we're talking. This would be late Saturday into early Sunday morning, and you can see that cold front really drawn out. And it's really because this stronger disturbance just reinforces the pattern, but now look at how amplified the upper level pattern is here. So now we've got some real strong winds aloft kind of starting to work in, and now it's grabbing all this cold air up into Canada and just shooting it southeastward. Feel like John Madden right now, but you get the general idea. So that starts to pull in a better, deeper, more quality cold air mass into the central United States as we head towards Sunday and Monday. We really don't feel the impacts of it until Monday morning because, again, that cold air takes a while to get here, and then you have to kind of get all that cold air to advect southeastward. So, again, we've opened up this northwesterly pattern with some pretty strong winds aloft. The pattern's amplified, so now we're grabbing air from farther northward and just kind of shooting it southeastward through the early parts of the week next week. Now, it looks to be a pretty short-lived shot of colder air as the upper-level pattern starts to modify rather rapidly. Upper ridge of high pressure builds in out over the Intermountain West. And with that, we start to see the overall pattern modify. Again, the shots of colder air this time of the season are going to be kind of short-lived, but then they get deeper and the upper-level pattern continues to send them more frequently, and then you start getting snowpack to the north, and that keeps the air colder longer, and that's really what happens during the winter months. We're still obviously well into fall. Denise asks about Renfest Saturday. What will the weather be like? I generally have the cloud cover sneaking back in, but that'll be mainly during the early parts of the day. I do have the rain chances. You'll see in the 7-day in just a minute, up to about 10-20% depending on location on Saturday. It does not look to be a washout. If you do run into rain, it looks to be very, very spotty and fairly light. Very similar to what we ran into last weekend, and most areas didn't see rain at all. So a look at some of the first freeze average data. And again, I posted this earlier, so if I fly through this, just keep in mind that you can go back on a lot of my social media platforms and you can find this data. This is our average first freeze over the last 5 decades. Now, some of these areas don't have 50 years worth of data, so I just compiled what I had. But most of our first freeze data usually lands in early to mid-November, so we're kind of on track. If we were to see a freeze next Tuesday morning would be the 11th, we're kind of in the ballpark there. The downside to that is if you don't see the freeze by then, which I don't think anybody's really looking forward to it, but statistics-wise, if you don't see the freeze then, it may be later in the month before we get temperatures that cold all over again. The earliest first freezes we've seen are in October. Obviously, I don't think anybody's going to be setting records for the earliest freeze in our area because we've already bypassed those dates. And in terms of the last freeze, if you're kind of planning out your growing season, you're going, how long can we expect freezing temperatures? Average last freezes usually land somewhere in March. We usually tell folks and we usually caution folks that wait to plant until April because frost can still be an issue well into March and even into early April. And then again, some of the latest last freezes are well into the month of April. So again, that's just for planning purposes and just because I looked up all the data, so I might as well show it all to you. So again, daytime highs today, mid-70s. The sunshine continues, as does the warming trend. Winds will be light out of the south-southeast. Overnight lows tonight roll into the mid-40s. The clouds could sneak in, especially along and south of I-20. Farther northward, I would generally expect to see mostly clear or clear skies. Winds will likely stay light out of the south, and we could, again, encounter some patchy fog as a possibility as well. Look at the 7-day forecast made possible by 3B Hardware. Shows daytime highs climbing back into the upper 70s quickly for the rest of the week. Low 80s Friday, Saturday. So again, that late Friday, early Saturday boundary really doesn't make much of a difference. Rain chances are limited. They are up to about 20% along the Mississippi Valley. So again, if you check the forecast on the Digital Weather Desk app, available for Apple and Android users, and you see the rain chances up to 20% in your area, again, I've bumped the rain chances up for some. This 7-day forecast is based for the Monroe area, and it has 10% chances, and they're even more limited farther northwest. There are some opportunities for some near zero rain chances as you move into southern Arkansas. And then again, trending cooler next week with highs generally expected in the 50s Monday, near 60 or upper 50s on Tuesday, and I think Tuesday morning will be the coldest morning of this stretch. At least that's how things pan out for right now, where some areas could be right at the freezing mark to start the day. I have El Dorado at... Sorry, the clipboard's on the floor. I got to manage this stuff better. I have El Dorado at 32 flat on Tuesday morning, and I have Monroe at 34. I have Natchez at 33. So, again, do with those numbers what you will, because obviously they're going to change a lot between now and then. But that is now the weather headline of the next week. Again, the forecast is always available at digitalweatherdesk.com or on the Digital Weather Desk app, available for Apple and Android users. I'll join you a little bit later today. We will also have our first of, I call them the clear air questionnaires, but basically it's really quiet outside, so I'm going to start asking your opinions on certain things. The Digital Weather Desk has been out and running for now 2 months, and as I promised, nothing is permanent, so I will be asking some questions over the next few weeks and taking in your input and your comments, your criticisms. I hear all of it. I may not necessarily act on all of it, but we hear all of it. So be looking out for that, and your input is not only welcome, it is strongly requested. And again, I'll join you a little bit later today with a look at the forecast as well. Thanks so much for stopping by the Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank. Again, if you're here, I'm glad you're here, and we'll catch you later today.